Hello, everyone. We wanted to welcome you to our Christian Studio Pastor's Legacy, where we have Rostik and me, Phil. Today, we're talking about a very interesting topic, and we wanted to dive deep and just speak a little bit about the issue we have in our generation with young, passive men. So, as we get started, Rostik, I wanted to ask you, what kind of issue do you see this happening in your not maybe in your own life, but maybe around you in your generation, where you work, where you serve, where you go to church? Do you see this issue? What kind of problems do you see with young men today?
I feel like, my name is Russ. I feel like the most that I saw in my personal life and just like saw what I work with the youth in church, the more men became more laziness. And they have, like I would call it, no emotions. Like laziness, no emotions. I can explain a little bit more in details that they don't have any goals in their life. Some of them do, some of them not. We're talking about specifically certain group of people that they don't want to, like, not just work in the personal life. We're talking about like job, career. We're talking about even church life that you want to serve. As a perfect example, like not perfect example, as my personal life that I saw that the more you serve in church, the easier life is. You don't serve as a like you want to have a blessing or you want to people say, oh, thank you, you do such a great job. You're just doing this is because Bible's saying it, first of all. Bible's saying it, the men should work. The men should have a job. That's what men should do. The men should provide family. And that way you want to work. That way you need to do some kind of work. Not everybody is mechanics. Not everybody is computers, engineers. Not everybody is doing something that you want to do, that I do. It just, Bible saying the men should work. Work
Absolutely.
is a huge thing that we can talk about. And it's just like, if we go even deep and back in history of Bible, we have perfect examples of Joseph. And you remember that he was just serving. He was doing whatever his parents said.
Yeah, from a young age, he just whatever his parents told him, he worked. He kept doing anything that he was told, not because he really wanted to or he had a choice, but he just did it for his parents. And before we go deeper in that example, I kind of wanted to go back to the first man, first man that we could take an example from, and that's Adam. And when he was in the garden, he didn't have bills or anything like that. He was there in the garden. He was tending to God's garden, and that's what he was doing. He was working. When Eve was presented to Adam, he was working. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't being passive. He wasn't just sitting around. He was working. So that's a very important thing for young men to do. It's and I see it as a very big problem. A lot of young men, a lot of teenagers, they just have no drive, no goals, no ambitions. Not even, career is one thing that's important to talk about. But even in their own church life and their own personal relationships with God, it's just non-existent. They can come to church because their friends are there or because their parents force them, but they just don't really care to be there, and that's a very big problem. We can continue on going in with your example.
Even the second example we have David. He was the same thing as Joseph. He was serving whatever the parents said. He was farming, I will call it right now these days words. And whatever he was there, what he did, Bible saying he was worshiping God. So it's just simple how Bible is saying that he was farming, he was working, he was serving for his parents, for whatever there is, and he was still had time in his young age worshiping by himself. He was not worshiping for people. He was worshiping for God. He had a beautiful voice, and he did it by his own. So it's just so important for us to know that when we by ourselves, we delight. That's what the Bible says. We delight. So it's important to worship. It's important to serve. Serve for people. Serve for one another. That way, life became more easier in personal life, in spiritual life, and then future and family life.
Absolutely.
Because you learn how to serve for each other.
Yeah.
You learn how to serve for each other in church. You learn how to serve for each other in work, to help each other out. You learning how to become more better men as a family man. Because we're talking about today specifically men's, because we as a starting, let's say from age of 12, we preparing ourselves for for something big. When I was 12, I was thinking about like future, what age I'll be ready to support my family, and if I'm good with God. So I knew back then that like, okay, I'm 12. Okay, I have 6 more years. I'll be 18. Maybe I'll get married. If I have a girlfriend, I have a future wife. But I was like, what I'm going to do for this past 6 years? I'm going to start searching for my future, or I'm going to be simply serving God. And that's what I choose. It's not that somebody forced me to do it, just that's what I choose. And you just serving for God, and then you realizing that in a way you forgetting to look for your future, because God already prepared for you. And whatever you're realizing that God already prepared for you, because He's faithful God to you.
Yeah.
And the Bible saying who's serving for me, that one's going to be blessed. I'm going to be saying simple words. And it's just, then all the time in your head that if you serve, you will be blessed. If you work, you get paid. You cannot sit at work and you just get paid. You cannot just sit in church and you will get blessed. Or just call yourself, I'm a Christian man, and I'm just sitting and I'm waiting, I said like a lazy man. It's just like, you cannot just sit at home and just like, I'm expecting that something's going to be knocking to my door and say, hey, buddy, there is a bill for you. There we go. You have a check for $1 million. And you open a second door and there is already marriage for you. There is already life. It's not happening. It's not happening like that. There is all the time that we have time for everything. That's what even the Bible says.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned a very interesting point where you had those few years when you were young and you're thinking about, should I be looking for a girl right now, or should I just be working? Should I just be serving? I should be doing different things. And we're right now in our youth service, we're doing a series on relationships, on dating, on marriage, and just relationships in general. And a very important part that we are trying to tell the young people is that your single years are some of the most important years of your life. If we go back to the example of Adam, when he was working in the garden, he was serving, he didn't even know he needed a wife. He wasn't like asking God for a helper. God told him, Adam, you need a helper.
Yeah.
And in a sense, that's also important for young men too, that we shouldn't be just looking for fun or anything. We should be serving and working so hard that in a sense, God will tell you, hey, Russ, you need a helper. You need someone to help you in your life. And that's a very important thing, to just dedicate your young years to God. You can never regret. I can even think about in my own personal life how many nights I spent in church, how many times, not in a way to boast, but just to say I will never regret how much I gave to the church or how much I spent, working and serving, because I can see how much of a blessing it is in my life now, in my family life, in home life, and in everything. It's just a blessing. In that right time, I was able to find a wife, and we're blessed now.
Yeah. We think sometimes is that life is going to change in 1 second. And I just remember even me and myself, as when you growing up, what things I want to do is like in church. When I moved to America, I did not know how, I was not speaking English. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking I cannot preach, and I'm not a preacher. And it just I was like, what can I do? I want to do something. I was just trying to find something in church. So I was just looking, and it just you remember those age when it was actually with you guys, I started helping just simple thing in audio. Yeah. I was not pro out there, but I was I know how to put the cables together.
Yeah, back then we were in the rental church.
Help out with the speakers and just put them down. It was fun for us. We knew that after church we have 5 minutes because we need to put everything together and just go have some fun, meaning get some lunch or something like this. It was fun for us. And then it became more as it's in a sense it's still serving.
Yeah, I never really saw that as a service, honestly. It was just there's something that I just enjoyed doing, and I was doing it for God's glory, right? And you the same thing.
Yeah, it's just so much you can do And just like we can talk, you can do in church. Yes, definitely you can do in church. But like Bible teaches us to be all the time like one-on-one and with God. So it's meaning when you're at work, when you're at home, when you're at school, when you're like with your friends, what kind of light you are.
Yeah.
When you like driving your car and you see something happen, you want to go and help them, or you just like somebody else will stop by. And it just, if somebody's calling you for help, you're like, no, it's okay, I'm busy. Like, and then it became, by the word of busyness, it became second of all laziness. That's what I would call it, from my perspective. And it just, that's how the most I see even in myself. When you just, I don't want to go to the church.
Yeah, I remember. Sorry to cut you off. I remember some good saying we came up with was, busyness is just an excuse for laziness.
Yes.
There are busy people. We are all busy, but a lot of times we just say we're busy, but we just don't want to do it. We just don't want to go.
You know, like, I said this so many times, and we're just like having conversation about busyness and laziness. And it's just like an example, you're looking the back in the history of the Bible, like Adam, he never said that he's busy. I don't remember that he said, God, I'm sorry, I'm busy. He never said that. He was just working. Yeah. He was just doing whatever, he was just enjoying it because that's where God's will was. That's what he was just doing. And how you mention it, he was not waiting for his wife. God said, Adam, you're lonely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a helper.
He found the perfect person for him at the right time.
And it's just like, then we go in second of all, it's just David, Joseph, all these young men, we're talking about specifically young men in the Bible, they was working. They didn't say, oh, sorry, Dad, I'm busy today with my friends. Yeah. They just like, at least I did not read the Bible and not saw anything of this stuff. They was working, they was serving. I don't know if back then there was a church exist. Maybe there was a church like as a family, they was gathering as a family, but they still knew about God. And they was serving for one another. And by that, they had faith in God. They need to serve for one another. Yeah. And it's just like the second thing is just that we can talk about, I think that really important these days to talk about to be faithful to God. Yeah. First of all, faithful to God, because if you're faithful to God, you're faithful to your friends, you're faithful to your future wife, you're faithful to your family, you're faithful to your parents. Yeah. And how you mentioned, I think you was explaining to me earlier about Joseph and his life, how he was faithful to God.
Yeah, through absolutely everything. Joseph, Joseph was probably the best example that we could come up with of a young man who went through so many trials and tribulations. His brothers rejected him, sold him to Egypt, where he was in prison, so far away from his family. That's literally probably the lowest place you could be at that time. And even then, he still trusted God. He still had faith in God. After he was released, he had a little opportunity to be in freedom. He was helping at the Potiphar's house. And he had an opportunity to sleep with this beautiful woman. But even in that, though nobody was around, no pastors, no parents, no preachers, he still knew in his mind, God gave him wisdom and morals to say no to that. But what was interesting, even after that, even though he made the right decision at that point, he was almost, in a sense, punished. Even though he wasn't punished, he was punished and sent right back to the prison to rot in prison. And even through that, he still remained faithful to God. So it's important. That's probably the most perfect example of young men. There is a time for everything. We have to trust God's timing, trust Him in everything, all that we do. We're young. You still have time to do things. We just encourage you to try different things in work, in career, at home, and especially in church. Let's just try different ministries, try different things out. Not everyone's destined to be a preacher, a pastor, an evangelist. There's so many different ministries. I think in our church we're in 30, 40, 50 probably different ministries that you can serve in. So it's not that we're limited or do anything. We just wanted to encourage young men to not be passive, not to sit around, but to serve, to spend your young years giving them to God, and you'll never absolutely regret it. To trust His timing, to trust Him in all that He, in all that He tells you, and even in those times where He's not speaking to you, those are times that He's testing you and increasing your faith, right?
Yeah, I remember we had a conversation with you. I think it was like 5 years ago, and we just had a conversation about 10%. 10%. Mm-hmm. Bible saying a lot of 10%, or like we call it Desiatina.
Yeah,
And it just
tithe.
like says a lot about that. It's meaning that, and we was talking about it, and you said that the math is, if you serving your life, like young life, we're talking about, let's say from 13, 12, 15 to like 18, it's a 10% of your life.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so important to have that goal. We encourage you guys to have a goal in life, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to have that one, and just so you can, after that, say to yourself, not to anybody, but to yourself, that I did it, that I made
Yeah.
it, that I served 10% for the church, for the God.
Yeah.
Because then you have, after that, a lot of more that you need to do. Because how I said it earlier, that we need to make a balance in our life. That we have church, we have family, and we have work. Because man needs to be work, man needs to provide family, and man needs to have a personal relationship with God. It just, when you have this kind of like level of things that you want to have a good balance, it's easy. But when you don't have that, you think, oh, I'm good at work, so it's just like I do one good thing, or I respect my parents, so it's mean that I'm really good Christian and I don't need to serve anymore. It's just so important to know that you need to do three of
Have
them.
a balance.
Yeah,
All that, yeah.
to live a little bit out of the world, out of your space.
So yeah, as we get ready to finish this conversation, I would just kind of wanted to recap. You know, we see a big problem in our young men these days, where they're just passive. They have no goals, no interests, no kind of future. We just wanted to encourage you to give your young years to God. You will absolutely never regret it. Not a single time you spent in church, not a single hour that you spent in church, you'll regret it. Just give that young time, those young years to God, and to work, to do different things, not spend your time wasting it on different things that are useless, but to give that time to God, even to besides God, to work on yourself as a person, to be whole, to learn leadership skills, and to be a good man, to have a career, to have all these different things, and it will benefit you in the long run. Because yes, we are here to serve God and praise Him, and one day we will go to heaven. But you know, we're not at a bus stop just waiting for heaven to come, right? We still have our whole lives to live, and it's important to give that to God and serve Him, and to be young men who are leaders. You know, so as we finish up, I just wanted to thank you for watching our video. This short discussion that we had. I wanted to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to help us grow and get these videos out to the audience that needs it, and it'll be an encouragement to everyone. God bless you.
God bless you. I had one more thing that I wanted to say.
Why did you look at me like you're done?
No, because I was like, I want to kick you, and I was like, ugh. I mean, we can add it, right? So I was about to say, like, because we talked about work, and I was about to say, mention Joseph and David, that it was like, because right now, these days, we think that like we can make money on stocks, and it's just like, I'm 16 and I want to be rich, and just like Joseph and David, they was not rich. But in the way but Bible saying they became the most powerful men in history of Bible.
Yeah.
And we're talking about powerful. It's mean that they had money. They had money and they had power. Like Joseph, he was second king of Egypt.
Yeah.
And Egypt,
He's second in charge over all of Egypt.
and
yeah.
I wrote a lot about, like, I love history, and I wrote a lot about Egypt. Egypt was one of the richest country in the whole world back then. Not maybe in exactly in the same time when we're talking about specifically Joseph,
Sure.
but there was a proof that it was the most powerful country, because whatever was no food around the area, only Egypt had it.
Yeah, so all countries, all the people
Yes,
went to live
like
together.
only Egypt has it, and even after, like we're talking about David, he became king, a second king of Israel. So Israel, it was not a poor country. It was a really powerful, strong country. And it just like he had everything. Because why? Because he was, both of them, all the men in Bible, if you read it, all of them was faithful to God.
Absolutely. So
There was not dreaming, oh, I will be rich. I want to go this path because I want to be rich. Because one day I'm going to be a king of Israel. They were just serving. They were just serving. And I can say this, that you can ask any businessman, any rich man, like they will say the same thing. Like, they were just serving. I have a lot of people that I know that, like, they really powerful businessmen. And if you're talking with them about life, they was just like, yeah, when we was young, we always serve in church. How you mentioned, like, you just serve in church. And they just, like, they serve in church. And they still manage to have today, like, businesses.
Yeah.
And they were serving. And it's just, like, the second thought that I had, we said about laziness. And I never heard, do you ever heard from a businessman that he's busy? In a certain way that he's busy to do something. He doesn't have time to do something. That's what he's going to say.
Sure, okay.
I'm packed. He can schedule appointments.
Yeah.
But, like, he never going to say, I'm busy that day. Or, like, I'm busy. How these days we like to say. Not just like to say, we just like to approve that we're busy that day. What we do, we have really important time. We need to lay in the bed and watch the game or play the game. That's our perfect excuse.
It's our busy time.
Yeah. That's it.